And now we're
So
really live.
okay, so you say something, you introduce something, or should I
Oh,
say
sure.
something? I don't.
Either
Yeah.
way, I mean, I say on the bottom that you're interviewing me for your community radio station in Germany. So I think that's what we're doing.
Okay, that's not true. At the last time I interviewed you for the community radio station, but I couldn't do it for with the same topic every month. This is
Yeah.
just for my YouTube channel or for your YouTube
Oh,
channel
good.
or wherever you like it.
Both.
So it's
So it's
community
for
radio.
my
Is
my channels and then your channels.
yes,
Excellent.
okay, 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 David. It's nice talking to you again. And last time I produced it with you for my community radio and for your websites and all the other things. And we decided to make a monthly update for the situation in the US and Germany. And it's a lot going on and it's a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah.
So, first, about your personal situation and about the situation of your friends. Are you all right there, or is there any big problems?
Personally, me and my family are doing just fine, but there's now 20% unemployment rate in this country, and the unemployment money that most of the unemployed were receiving ends as of yesterday. So they don't get any more of the extra pandemic unemployment money, which was like enough to live on. So now it's back to the amounts that you can't live on, which is how it works in this country when you're unemployed. You get like $200 a week, basically in compensation. So you really, it's I don't know how people survive, but they were getting an extra $600, and now that's over. So it's we're looking at tens of millions of people getting evicted from their homes in the next few months. But I mean, I'm we're doing okay, but it's not okay for many other people. So it's yeah, it's and then of course the pandemic is out of control and all over the country, or especially in some parts of the country. So it becomes more and more of a contrast between the United States and much of Europe, where the economies are shrinking and there's a lot of unemployment, but there's still much better management going on, and people are not losing all of their homes. And yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of things I hear about people's vacations in Spain getting canceled and stuff, but that's a kind of a minor problem compared to mass unemployment and homelessness.
No,
Yeah.
no. I was very. I saw your video at, in the morning, and I thought there was something wrong with you because the lyrics were so sad and so giving up hope. I think these torches and pitchfork and torches. And so I thought something wrong with you. It's not good that's something wrong with the other people, but it's a little hope that it's everything okay with you. So
Well, I like
I,
the imagery that
yeah,
spending the last of your money on torches and pitchforks,
uh,
that this was a tweet by a comedian named Jimmy Dore, right? But I
ah,
thought that's a great idea. What should you spend the last of your money on if you only have a couple $100 left? Definitely pitchforks and torches is a good purchase, because I mean, I don't know if it's not, I mean, it's kind of a sad statement, of course, that it gets to that point, but it's not necessarily not a hopeful thing. If you think about the rebellions in Germany and elsewhere in Europe in 1848, when there
mhm.
were a lot of pitchforks and torches, there was also a lot accomplished. I mean, a lot of things changed for the better after those rebellions. Although it was a very difficult period for most Europeans, with lots of hunger and starvation, and tens of thousands of people died in the rebellions. But things improved afterwards.
Yes. Uh, Today I also write a song about situation here in Germany because I'm living near a suburban area of Ludwigsburg, a little town in Germany, and people are very well off. And the song is about everything has to break down before something new is established. And that's sad because a lot of people don't react after all things break up. And I the people here, they are say, okay, my personal rights are um, personal rights, the state, and no, the personal rights of them are not going on by the state. So because they have to wear a mask or so. So
Mm.
so there's luxury problems here. and
Yeah.
and and when the pandemic began, I have the big hope that something changes here in society, that the people will not drive so much cars. So I don't have a car, and I do a lot of things by foot and by public transport, and it's possible because even in the area here where you don't need that, and they all drive the big cars, they do the same thing like before the pandemic, so they learned nothing. So I'm very sad about this, and so I thought it has to break down. It's sad, but it has to break down, and we could be glad that the situation here in Germany is so good compared to you, compared to Brazil, and so, and you have to be thankful. But here also the people on little things, they yeah, they crawl about little things. So
Yeah,
if
but
you,
that's how it is. You compare yourself to your neighbors, not to something that's happening far away in some other country. So you're going to be contrasting life in
yeah,
Stuttgart to life in some other German city, or maybe a neighboring country, and maybe you'll be like, oh, where things are not as crazy as they are in Paris. That's good, but yeah,
but I hope really we have to take little steps to improve something. So we've got a project now. A friend of mine, he has got a sharing shop. You know, you share things that you can be there. You could be a member. You pay $25 a year, and people bring their stuff there, machine things, everything they don't need anymore. So you can rent them. You don't pay it. You just pay the membership. So if a lot of things you don't use regularly, you use it just for once, for a special uh, for a special thing, you know.
yeah,
And so
project.
if you have a car, you just use this 1 hour a day, and the rest of the day it's standing on the park place. And so this project is also aimed by the government, but just for two years, and then we have to have so much money that we can make it on our own. And so that will be something against the climate change, that you in your area with your things that you can do, achieve something. And if that do a lot of people, I think we can make a big step. But we need the
In terms
people.
of
Yeah,
reducing consumption,
yeah,
yeah. And then there will be those saying, "Oh, we have to. That's not good for the economy. We need to buy more stuff." But
yeah.
hopefully, that perspective is becoming less popular. But then it depends on whether there's real support for moving forward in a way that's not dependent on economic growth for the model. That's a failed model for doing things. The growth
Mm.
model. Huh?
Yes, and they want to tell us that we have to grow and grow and grow, and there are no frontiers, and that's good for everyone. So, and but most of the people believe in that, and I think that's the problem. So perhaps in that pandemic times will be some change in the thinking of some people, at least, not all people, but some people. I hope so.
Mm. So there's thousands of U.S. military are leaving the military bases in Germany. Is that a big news item over there? You've been hearing about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I'm hearing about that. They're moving to Poland and so because the president of Poland and Trump bigger friends and yes, for the people working for the U.S. military here, it's yeah, it's a problem, but it's not such a big issue for most of the people here in Germany that don't depend on the U.S. forces. So. And a lot of people say, okay, we don't want the U.S. forces, but others say, okay, it's stability, and so yes, but it's not such a big issue, I think. But for Trump, it's important to do something. So I think he's going worse and worse and shows more that he wants to be a dictator. And I hope you people in the U.S. That they recognize it now. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it seems like more and more moves in that direction, right? I mean,
Hmm?
not only, and now he's got the acting head of Homeland Security, who is not. I mean, so many of his department heads are not sort of appointed by Congress or not vetted by Congress. They're just like they're supposed to be. They're just the acting heads, which is supposed to be a temporary position, but they're very political, politicized Trump appointees who are doing just exactly what he wants. And now this guy sending federal agents into different cities, snatching people off the street and drowning the streets in tear gas. It's just very provocative, and it's just one of so many things that he's been doing that are really following the playbook of fascism. And now he's talking about not having an election in November. And yeah, I imagine people in Germany, and I know that there was a good cover on, I think it was Der Spiegel recently,
Hmm?
but yeah, people are paying a lot of attention to these moves in the direction of fascism happening
Yeah.
here. I imagine people take it more seriously there than I mean, there's some people who just think Trump is just crazy and just lashing out and desperate and doing anything he can think of. But it seems also to be more planned, like more of following following the plan for taking over from democracy to dictatorship. But he doesn't seem to be very good at it, compared to some other fascists in history. He's just kind of not the smartest fascist, but he's a
Uh,
fascist. Yeah.
yes, I think he's a fascist because he's also supported by the NRA and the KKK and all these crazy guys. And I think he has also connections to the mafia and so. But people here, they are really afraid what happened when Trump is still in office. And also my daddy, he's a conservative, but he also is afraid of Trump. So all the people that normally are for the U.S., are for the NATO, and so, but they all have really afraid what happens if Trump stays in office, and uh, many people he also believes that there will be a civil war if that happens.
Yeah,
What do you think
that's
there?
that's. I mean, I think just what was it? Just 2 days ago, I think there were 5 different protesters who were shot in different parts of the country just in that one day. So, I mean, yeah, it's really getting it's very violent situation for going to protests. It's not like you only have to worry about the police, which is usually the situation in here and in most countries. That if you have a problem, it's going to be with violent riot cops. The
Mm.
riot cops rioting, but and here that's still the main problem in terms of being attacked for marching. But there's also this other problem of these far right and other people who have been propagandized or riled up by Trump or wherever it is, that white supremacists or wherever they're coming from, but they're much more empowered than any time in my lifetime, than anything I've ever seen, in terms of driving their cars into protests and shooting at people, and sometimes they get arrested too, and charged with crimes. So, which is also very interesting because these far right people are so committed to their cause that they are committing crimes that they're willing to get arrested for. It seems they're willing to get arrested to shoot a protester. It's really yeah, quite something.
And Trump, if that happened, that incident in the, I think it's 2 years ago, where someone crashed with a car into a demonstration and killed someone. And
Well,
Trump,
there's been others like that
yeah,
now, but yeah, that was a famous one in
yeah,
Charlottesville in
in Charlottesville, yeah,
2017. Yeah,
yeah,
3 years ago. Yeah, but now since then there've been multiple other similar occasions, and they're less, they get less news attention, but
yeah.
there's been stuff that I think actually that have involved people actually dying, but definitely getting seriously injured. I don't know how many there have been now, these car attacks.
And Trump, he said there are, both sides are wrong, right and
Yeah,
wrong, and left, and so he doesn't care for it. And I think he just thinks, yeah, okay, I've got my forces. I turn all the protesters down, and these are also, like I say. He also said these are all anarchists. I think if they're really all anarchists, that would be great. But
yeah, I
I
wish.
don't think.
And then
But
Biden is also denouncing anarchists. Neither Trump or Biden seems to realize that anarchism is a political perspective and not not some kind of a, I don't know what they think. Anarchists and arsonists is the same word for them. If you're setting
uh,
fires, you must be an anarchist. Yeah.
yeah, and do you think that if there is a normal election, that Biden will win that?
Oh, I mean, it seems like, as it is, as the polls seem to indicate, that would be the case. But who knows if the election will go ahead and it's never quite normal, because there's always this. The Republicans, and I mean, there's a lot of stealing of votes going on in the millions. Like, I mean, even like back in 2008, I think if everybody, if all the votes had been counted, Obama would have won by many millions more than he won by. I mean, there's a lot of votes that don't. They make it difficult to vote. They make it as difficult as possible in many ways, and that's in order to, so that fewer people will vote. Because if fewer people vote, then Republicans are more likely to win. But then, of course, even when the Democrats win, of course, things don't get better. you know, but
Yes,
who
yes.
knows?
But
Who knows what'll
I
happen?
think in that situation, you have to do everything to prevent Trump from another time in the office. But okay, if the Democrats are on, it's not much better. But I think it couldn't be worse than now, or with with Donald Trump. I think, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think that yeah, it would be less scary if anybody other than Trump was in office, because he's clearly just really emotionally unstable and narcissistic. And I mean, it's scary to have somebody with their finger on the nuclear button who is so unstable, or at least appears to be so unstable. So I guess in that sense, he's especially worrying. But otherwise, in terms of foreign policy and domestic policy, if it were a Republican or a Democrat who was not so emotionally unstable, then I wouldn't think it would make much difference, because
Mm,
generally, both parties have seen the have presided over the further impoverishment of much of the country, the stratification of wealth, things just keep getting worse since the 1970s, and that's been under both Democratic and Republican governments, so, and wars get started
Yeah.
and under both parties. So they both just voted for another of the biggest military budget in the history of the world, which is, of course, the last biggest military budget in world history was last year, and the biggest before that was the year before, and now it's the biggest once again ever. And the Democrats, all but 100 people in the Congress, voted for it. And most of the opposition was Democrats, but still, most Democrats voted for it. Yeah. And that's with a Trump presidency too. So if they're so concerned about Trump, they don't show it. If they're concerned about what he might do with a $800 billion military budget, they don't seem to be, you know, I mean, if you thought Trump was such a scary guy, then why would you give him $800 billion of military,
I don't
expenditure? It doesn't make sense.
I don't know why you all in a way why you have military on the wood, why you have the weapons. So but
No.
you don't question about it. So if you're working at Heckler and Koch, they produce weapons here in Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and also promoted by the state. And I think, okay, that's okay. But if you rob a bank, then it's a crime. But these weapons also do a lot of crimes and a lot of more things. So you don't understand how the things are divided into good and bad, and just say because the state says that's good and that's bad. So, but I think Trump, he's really mentally ill. I think
Yeah.
he thinks he's a Nazist. He thinks he's the best one in the world, and he also said he's so intelligent and everything will work fine. And he thinks he must be a dictator. And so I think he loses the connection to reality, or a
Yeah,
little
it
bit.
seems like it, yeah. But it's like, I mean, of course, he seems to basically, I mean, he rules by fantasy, it's such an interesting time for the fantasy-based rulers like Trump and Bolsonaro, to come into real conflict with actual reality, because then they can say whatever they want about how things are, but then in reality there's a virus, and it's spreading exponentially, and you can't just pretend things are different from how they actually are. You can say we live in a society where everybody is equal, but then you see black and brown people dying at 4 or 5 times the rate as white people, and then it's obvious there's not an equal this is not an equal society. And then you can say that the virus is going to go away, but then when thousands more people die every day, and yeah, you can try to hide the statistics, but there's other people trying to keep track of the statistics, and it's kind of hard to hide statistics when this is the third biggest killer in the US right now, after cancer and heart disease, is coronavirus. It's killing, I mean, so you can't just, everybody now, many people now know people who have been sick or died, and you can't just pretend it's not happening. But that's his basic way of running things, and he's not alone in that. But is to just be rule based on fantasies, sort of patriotic fantasies. But so many of these fantasies are just falling apart in front of his eyes. I think even for many of his supporters, because you just can't hold on to these fantasies when they're so obviously being disproven.
Yes, but I think it's really hard to talk to people that are not open-minded. That you couldn't talk on reality. They just have their ideologic thinking, and said everything that's against it, it's wrong, and we don't need any proofs. And if you argue like that, you have a really simple vision of the world, but it's easy for them because they have a ruler and he tells them what to do. You don't have to question about it. And most people here also say, okay, it's easy for me. I know what's good and what's bad. And it's also like here, many Turkish people say, okay, Erdogan, he's our great leader, and what he does is okay. So and more people are thinking that way, and you have a lot of examples in history that it also always went wrong with these rulers. But what I'm really surprised that people uh, think that it would work with these rulers. I don't
Yeah,
know
I guess.
why.
I mean, I guess there's been. I mean, at least the fantasy-based rulers seem to be, they fail when they're confronted with reality in a big way. Although I would say, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there are certainly very charismatic, popular rulers in other countries historically that have done very well with the virus. Like, I mean, Fidel Castro and Ho Chi Minh were both popular in their respective countries, but and both are dead. But still, anyway, Vietnam and Cuba have been two of the countries that have done the best with this virus, and that's worth noting. But they neither country is currently run by a demagogue fantasist like the United States or Turkey or many other countries are. But not all demagogues are the same. Perhaps, I don't know, but
Mm.
we've certainly got a really bad one here, and certainly in I'd say certainly in Brazil and in India, clearly the demagogues are not they're not serving their people. Although maybe in some other places they do better.
Yeah, I hope the situation will improve a little bit in the US, and that perhaps then after the election there is no Trump anymore. But I hope your movement, that a lot of young people will wake up and say we want another society. I hope that could be the first spark. I think these protests
Yeah, I
to
think that's quite something that's going on, and could hopefully develop into something bigger. You know, that's always the hope, isn't it?
and I asked a lot of people if they want to join the broadcast today, but they have no time.
Well, that's
And
one thing. Everybody's getting busier, right?
yeah,
Now that
it's
things are opening up, everybody's not spending, all their time in front of their computers anymore. I've been
uh,
finding with people I interview that many of them are now canceling because life is getting busier again.
but I have got a question from Bernd. He you sing on the demonstration in Besigheim. He organized it, and he wanted to know what is planned in the US for the September the 25th, the Climate Day, I think. Do we have there any
Mm.
things is planned in the US for that, or do you?
Not that I know of, but I mean, I'm not the right person to ask. There may be other
Okay,
things happening, but it's just I think in 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 my world here, nobody's planning much more than a day or maybe a week in advance, and things are just always changing. There's a lot going on, but maybe some people are actually making plans for events that far ahead. I
okay.
I don't know.
And what your personal thing is? Do you have a special period when you say, okay, it's possible to make music live again, or is there nothing like that in the common time for you?
I mean, right now, there's nothing like that going on because even in places where there are venues that are open, they're not, they have very few people in them, and they're not having live performers anywhere that I know of. I mean, it's just, and the pandemic is spreading very fast. It's out of control is the term that they're using to describe how fast it's spreading. So it's, I think what we have to look forward to over the next few weeks here is a whole lot more people dying and a whole lot more sort of chaos in many ways. And there would be no way to plan anything in
Mm,
advance, like a tour or something like that. Completely impossible because everything's constantly changing. I mean, of course, you're getting some of that in Europe with like any number of people who have been, taking from Britain or Germany going to Spain, and now you've people are facing getting quarantined on the way back when they didn't expect they'd have to. But yeah, so those kinds of things are going on in a smaller way there. But here, there's no way. I mean, anybody who thinks they can plan anything in advance, I think, is dreaming. And even all
mm,
these plans about schools opening up, I'm sure that any of the schools that are talking about physically opening up by the end of this month, they're going to be changing their positions on that because even where the virus is contained, relatively contained in places like New York, that's very temporary because this is just one country and there are no borders, and so uh, you know it's spreading. The virus is spreading along the highway corridors, and there's a highway that goes all the way from Florida to Maine on the East Coast, and there's highways like that all over the country. So it just spreads along the highway, and then of course it spreads from there. So there's no way that just because you may have dealt with the virus in
mm.
one part of the country that it's going to be dealt with permanently.
There's no light at the end of the tunnel in the moment, and the pandemic is growing very fast in the US, and there's no
Yeah,
uh, sign of improvement in the
no, I don't
last.
think so. It's just
Okay.
like in Latin America. I think it's basically, yeah, Canada, they've got it well contained, I think, but from the US and everywhere south of the US except for Cuba, it's a disaster.
And it's a problem here also. Then the people that go traveling to Mallorca come back, and the infection rates are also growing again. It's not so worse than in the US, and but I think the lockdown was much too short. They had to do a much longer lockdown because if there's a second wave here, then yes, then
Yeah.
everything breaks down. That could be good, but not with the result that so many people will die. Also, then
No, it seems
it's
like they should have the countries like Germany, if they had kept their borders closed, then they wouldn't have this problem that's now with people are facing with the virus coming back from people going on vacation, right? But I guess there's
mm,
so many political considerations there in Europe with the borders needing to be open within Europe, right? Even though they're separate countries, it's closing the borders was very unpopular for a lot of
yeah.
people. Yeah.
But I think open borders are important, but in that situation,
Yeah.
it's not good. So we have to do something. Think that the politician always tell something the people. They in Germany they tell we are one union, we are one country, and the important jobs, just like the nurse or like the dealer in the supermarket, and they get more money and so on. That's all bullshit because uh, we are not united, and you couldn't create such a thing like yeah, like nationalism or so. And but it's all only here in Germany if it's going to football. But then everyone goes his own way, and there is nothing like solidarity. And I think we need really solidarity in that times, but that's all just the media tells us there is solidarity in the people things, but I don't see it,
Right.
unfortunately.
No, you can put up signs saying we're all in it together, but then real solidarity needs to be, you need to demonstrate that with actual budgets and
Yeah,
numbers and,
yeah,
concrete things. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, David. I don't know what else to talk about. And
There's
for
always more, but we can we can check in next month.
next month, there will be better technique,
Yeah, we'll be on fancier computer on
and
your end.
we learn from every discussion to every discussion. But I think we talked about some really serious problems that a lot of people uh, want to know about, and they, especially people in Germany, want to know how it is really in the US, because you just see the media and the struggles there, but I don't expect that it's really so bad like you tell. So I, yeah, really, I
Yeah,
think it's, and I
yeah.
hope you will all come out of these crises. And yes,
We'll
David.
see. We'll see what happens. It's at
Okay,
least the times are not boring anyway. No reason to be
that's
bored.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, and you can go on recording some good old
that's
songs.
right.
And
That's right.
we see you next time. I
See
wish
you
you.
next time.
I just think that I don't wish you good night. I wish me a good night, and I
Yeah,
wish you
you
a
have a
good
good
day.
night. I'll have a good day.
Okay, bye.
Take
Bye.
care, Frank.
Do you send it to me then?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
I'll
thanks.
send it to you.
Bye.